Hey Jews, we're going to continue reading from the Book of Esther from Ma'am Lo'az, and I've explained in the different videos leading up to this one why we're doing that. And just as a little overview here, because we need to understand the situation we are in at this point, 5,785, the end times. The importance of understanding what it means to be a Jew. And this, by the way, in Purim was the first time that we really hear that word Jew. Mordechai was a Jew. So we had to go back and understand all of the things. And understanding is in Bina. I did a series of videos on consciousness that's linked here to Bina. There's Chokhmah, Bina, Vadat. Chokhmah is the wisdom of God that's in the Torah, with which he created the reality. He created reality, this world, with wisdom. So he gave us that wisdom in the Torah. But it's not good that we just read the Torah and don't know what we're doing. We have to understand it. Understanding is here, like we said, in Bina. That's why after Purim, when they came back to Eretz Israel, to the land of Israel, and they built the second temple, Ezra, in the Book of Ezra, made sure, Nehemiah, they made the prophets, they made sure that everybody understood the Torah when they read it there in Jerusalem at the temple. So what does that mean? It meant that they translated it to Aramaic so that people would understand. Okay, it's not good now that we just live the lifestyle as frum Jews or Orthodox Jews, just living this lifestyle. We need to understand that we're working here. This is a lot of work that we're trying to do because we actually have a mission. What are we here for? What are the Jews here for? To just participate in the goings-on of the 70 nations, to be in the Olympics, to be in the Eurovision, to do interpretive dances about October 7th. And no, we're here to understand that what we want is basically what they got. We want to come back into the land and build the third temple. That's the whole idea of the Torah. That's what's written there. So it has a lot also to do with our own consciousness, how conscious we are of what's going on in our reality. On a personal level, why are we even here? What happens after we die? And to understand that there are 5 dimensions of reality, and 3 are physical, 1 is spiritual, and 1 is time. So we have to try to understand all of the different dimensions. And again, in my videos leading up probably from defending the tradition, I really explore a lot of these concepts, especially Bina and consciousness, and how also repentance is in Bina. The more you understand, the more you will repent. And to know at the end of the day, says the prophets like Malachi, who we've been talking about a lot, which was at the same time after Purim, that all we have to do is all of us, the nation of Israel, cry out to God, return to God, follow the Torah laws. And then this is the end of the story, the end of this reality, because this reality is the world of lies. That's what the Torah says, literally. Alma deshikra. This is a world of lies where good and evil is mixed. Good luck filtering out the good and evil. Good luck. Now it's becoming a little bit more apparent. Now we have some knowledge, some da'at. We have some knowledge of our world as things become more clear. The New World Order, the Great Resets, the Agenda 2030s, the October 7th, the wars, the DEWs, the chemtrails, HARP, the 1% satanic elite. We have a little bit more knowledge, and probably we have the most knowledge about what's happening in our world right now than we ever have before this time, because this is the end times. I go through that also in previous videos. So we're just continuing on. I'm not going to explain all of the reasons that I say the things I do. I lay them out very clearly, again, from video to video, building on my understanding of what I'm learning in the Torah. So please go back and watch from the Defending the Tradition onwards, and eventually catch up, and let's talk about the importance of Purim and the importance of the fast of Esther, which this year is going to be March 13th, which is also the 13th of Adar in the Jewish calendar. So, and again, during the second period temple, Second Temple period. That's when they set our calendar until the end of time. Before that, they didn't have a set calendar. They did it as they were living it in real time. They were setting the calendar. That's a very, very important thing to try to understand. So we are in the end times, obviously. Now, we do know a lot of things that are happening, but there's a lot of things that are hidden from us still that may surprise us. But everything is known to God. So nothing's happening without God letting it happen. This is the story of Purim that explains to us how this all happens with the spiritual information and the physical information, meaning there's things that happen in our physical reality and also things that are happening in the spiritual reality. So that's why we're learning the Book of Esther. We're learning it from Ma'am Loaz because, like Ezra, who wanted to make sure that everyone understood the Torah at the Second Temple right after Purim, when they came back in and built the Second Temple. So too Rav Yaakov Kuli. He's one of the heroes of the tradition, which I outlined there in my video called Defending the Tradition, where Rav Yaakov Kuli understood also that at this time, 5,000, the end times, whoever makes it to the end time, that generation is going to need to understand the Torah. And so he compiled this anthology. So it's not just, we just read and we're like, Shkoyak, everybody, great job. We read it. Once again, we read the Megillat Esther. No one knows really what's going on. No one has any way to tie that into our current times because we don't strive, for the most part, to understand. So Rav Yaakov Kuli made sure that we would understand. And then what we should do is understand that within the context of our times and our life. So it's 5,785. We have a lot of knowledge now, just like it says, and we haven't gotten to that part yet in the Megillat Esther, where Mordechai had knowledge, ayalo da'at, who he knew what was going on. Pretty much everyone knows what's going on now. So same thing. What was will be again, says King Solomon. There's nothing new under the sun, and we've explored also the fact that the Sitra Achra, the other side of holiness, they are not creative. So we can see how they work. We can see what they do, and we can identify it. We can do the Havdalah, the difference between Kodesh L'Chol, holy and unholy. So let us continue. From 111. להביא את ושתי המלכה לפני המלך בכתר מלכות להראות העמים והשרים את יפיה כי טובה מראה היא. He instructed them to bring Vashti before the king wearing her royal crown to show the people and nobles her beauty, for she was very good looking. Providence directed that it should happen on this day to show how the Sabbath protects the Jews. Vashti's execution, which was the beginning of the deliverance, therefore occurred on Shabbat. Now, we've talked about the importance of Shabbat. This is a spiritual time that protects the Jews. We also saw that on October 7th, that those who kept Shabbat were protected. There's a whole town down near Gaza that, go and learn about that. Although the Jews partook of the feast all week, on the Sabbath, they all remained home, fearing that if they attended, they might inadvertently desecrate the holy day. It was in this merit that they were saved. All it would take, Jews, is for all of us just to keep one Shabbat, 2 Shabbat. That's all. So at least they knew that then. So they stayed home. It was a custom in the ancient Persian kingdom that during a banquet, the men would have their wives dance nude before the company. This would set the tone of the entire affair. Ahasuerus was drunk enough to want the queen to do the same. All the courtiers were boasting about the beauty of their women. A friendly argument broke out about whether the Persian women were more beautiful or the Median woman. Ahasuerus interrupted. My woman is from neither Persia nor Media, but from Babylon. No one is as beautiful as she. If you don't believe me, I'll show her to you. Sure, replied the courtiers. Dress the ugliest woman as a queen, and she will look beautiful. That doesn't prove anything. That's what you think, retorted the king. I'll show you that she's beautiful even without clothes. With that, he turned to his ministers and said, "Bring me Queen Vashti wearing nothing but her royal crown." Providence brought about Vashti's downfall on the Chabad to give her fitting punishment. Vashti had a practice of drafting Jewish girls and making them work for her in the nude on Shabbat. Vashti wanted the Jews to violate the Shabbat, since keeping the Shabbat gives the Jews a great advantage. Let me read that once again. Vashti wanted the Jews to violate the Shabbat, since keeping the Shabbat gives the Jews a great advantage. If we would all understand that, we wouldn't walk around wondering, why doesn't God protect us? We just literally don't do anything that he told us to do, especially the Shabbat. We don't use our advantages. We don't understand the information that's given there for us in order to survive this reality in which all of time, in every generation, they rise up to annihilate us. Sometimes they succeed, like in the Holocaust. Sometimes they do not succeed, like in Purim. And Rabbi Avigdor Miller tells us exactly the similarities and differences between Purim and the Holocaust. And I will actually link those videos from last year that I did from Rabbi Avigdor Miller in this description of this class. Please watch it. So it also speeds the redemption. So does anybody want the redemption at this point? I mean, does anyone want the redemption at this point? Or are we all just super happy with our reality at this point? We are just super happy? So it speeds the redemption when all the Jews keep the Shabbat. Okay, I'm going to calm down. Vashti, therefore, tried with all her might to make the Jews forget the Shabbat, so they would no longer have hope for the redemption and the rebuilding of the temple, which is pretty much what's happening here. So we can see a lot of similarities already. They want us to fail. They're not clueless like some of us are. Some of us Jews are clueless. We're just living our life and we're doing what everyone else is doing. When meanwhile, they're over here all in it together, devising ways to elongate this satanic reality. Because the minute, the second, the very second, says Malachi, that all the Jews return to Hashem, that's when we get the redemption. So maybe we don't even think about there, or we don't have hope for the redemption and rebuilding the temple. Vashti, she knew very well that when the Jews observed the Sabbath, no nation in the world has power over them. Maybe the Jews of Australia right now maybe should be a good thing if they kept the Sabbath. By making Jews violate the Sabbath, she hoped to consolidate their subjugation to her and her husband. Understand also that at the same time that we're reading this story, we're also at the same time reading a spiritual story. If we understand the spiritual side of the story is directly correlated to how much each one of us has purified our souls. Okay, that's a spiritual part of us. Our body is 3 dimensions, our soul is the 1 dimension, and our lifetime is the time. So whether we're understanding that there's 2 stories being told here right now is directly dependent on how much we have basically repented, because that's the same place as, that's Binah, that's our consciousness. So think about that. So Vashti also made a special effort to make the Jewish women sin, because she realized that the women of the house can exert a great influence over her husband. If the women became immoral, the men would not be far behind. Now, I'm going to just keep stopping and explain that when women decide to not cover their hair, okay, and they will not get married unless the husband, and I'm talking about Orthodox, again, Orthodox Jews, and I'm going to do like that, because at this point it's a lifestyle, I think, for the most part. There's people here and there that are really trying to understand, really trying to do the work. We talked about the work of a Jew. Jew work. It's learning. This is from the Ramchal, from Derech Hashem, and doing, which includes a lot of things. And So when the women, and this happened also at the second temple period, that the women were doing tons of crazy stuff. And so we know that during the first redemption, it was in the merit of the women, that the women were modest, that the women made sure the women are in charge of the house. The women. So when the women start to stray, as we hear here from Vashti here, that it will bring down the whole nation. And so women, and especially the modesty. So when we see that a lot of Orthodox Jews, they must wear that wig on their head. They must wear that wig. It's such a vanity. And there's so much to say about the wig, and who really made that permissible, which we talk about in a lot of different videos. I really feel like you can only really understand what I'm saying, how my hashkafa has come from learning all the following with me through all my videos from defending the tradition. So the wig, a lot of women will not get married now. If the man doesn't want the woman to wear the wig, then they're not going to get married. So the men have no choice. They don't want to stay alone. There's too much work to be done without a woman. We're partners, the man and the woman. The woman has a lot to do to make sure that her man can do this work. So, men have to compromise now on what they don't want, the wig. But because the women must have the wig, because so-and-so said it was fine and their rabbi's wife wears a wig, that, that's a problem. So Vashti made a special effort to make the Jewish women sin, because she realized that the woman of the house can exert a great influence over her husband. If the women become immoral, the men will not be far behind. There was another reason that God made Vashti's downfall occur on this day. As mentioned earlier, the 7th day of the second feast fell on Yom Kippur. On this most holy day, Satan has no power to denounce the Jews. It is a day when the Jews spend his entire day fasting and praying in a synagogue. Therefore, on this day, the deliverance of the Jews began with the downfall of Vashti. For all the Jews that don't think there's a hell and that don't think there's a Satan, don't understand reality at all, because you haven't gone and learned about that, and we haven't tried to understand that properly. I did another video once called "What the Hell Are You Talking About, Jews?" Regarding hell and Satan. There was another reason that God, so we said one of Ahasuerus's hopes in making the second feast was to bring the Jews to sin, especially through sexual misdeeds. He spent a good deal of time each day hatching plots towards this goal. On the 7th day, it was Yom Kippur, and the Jews absented themselves from the feast to attend synagogue. Not having anything to do, Ahasuerus thought up a new idea. Summoning Vashti, he said, "All week long we have been wearing down the Jews' resistance, but now they are ready to commit adultery. But they are ashamed. We must dispel their inhibitions. I want you to mingle with the guests in the nude. When the courtiers see you, they will do the same, and before long all the wives will be marching around naked. Whatever we do, the Jews usually follow suit. And before you know it, the Jewish women will be mingling with the men without clothes on. Because we're like a bunch of sheep, Jews. We really are. And we need a good leader. I talked about the type of a leader in the video that is called What We Can Learn from the Holocaust. And then I looked at different types of supposed Jewish leaders from the Holocaust, like the Yeshiva Mir and the Rebbe and Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman. Because Jews were like sheep. We're God's flock. So we need to be careful who we follow. Did another video called "Be Careful Who You Follow." It's your soul, you guys. It's your own soul. And you should be very scared about this, because when this reality ends, which it will, we're in the end times. We have all of the information from the prophets, like Malachi, and others, many others. So you have to be very careful of your soul. You maybe go and double check a whole thing about this wig thing, for example. Be very, very careful, because there are always people in our reality of which you have no knowledge or perhaps understanding of what they are doing and why. Okay? They want a different outcome. We want this reality to end, basically. We want a new reality. The new reality is going to be all spiritual. That's why we have to spend most of our time of our lives learning about it in the Torah, which is the wisdom of God. The only way we're going to understand that is to make sure we have a spiritual receptivity. This is both an intellectual and a spiritual endeavor. That's combining this reality, combining your body with your soul in order to try to understand what to do, what the reality is all about, where we are, and what's the situation. The situation is not good for the Jews right now. This indicated to us that something's happening. We see since then a lot of very interesting things, that the outcomes could be not very good for the Jews. That's why we're learning and we're trying to understand the importance here. So we can then let nature take its course. All they have to do is set us up, and then nature will take its course. They sin so much that we'll be able to sleep peacefully. The temple will never be rebuilt, and they will never be freed from exile. Let's read this again. Summoning Vashti, he said, all week long we have been wearing down the Jews' resistance. By now, they are ready to commit adultery, but they are ashamed. We must dispel their inhibitions. I want you to mingle with the guests in the nude. When the courtiers see you, they will do the same, and before long, all their wives will be marching around naked. Whatever we do, the Jews usually follow suit, and before you know it, the Jewish women will also be mingling with the men without clothes on. We can then let nature take its course. They'll sin so much, then we'll be able to sleep peacefully, because the temple will never be rebuilt and they will never be freed from exile. Is that what we want, nation of Israel? Is that what we want? We just want to keep being like everybody else, like all the 70 nations. We just want to do what they do. We just want to join OnlyFans and make a lot of money. Is that what we want? Is that what we want? We just want to own the OnlyFans, Jews? We just want to make a lot of money? Is that what we're here for? We don't want the temple? We don't want the temple anymore? You don't want the redemption anymore? You want to keep these Torah laws? You don't want to return to Hashem? You want to keep asking yourselves, where was God? Where was God? If God was God. You just want to look like everyone else? Sorry, I'm very feisty today. So, as a result of this plot, Ahasuerus suffered a great loss of dignity. When they heard of his summons, many people thought that he was an idiot. Instead of sending important officials to summon Vashti, he sent ordinary servants. His instructions implied that they were to arrest her like a common thief and bring her before him. All of this was directed by Providence to give Vashti cause to refuse to obey the king's summons. She would then be executed, and Esther would take her place. Providence also made that this take place when the king was happy and drunk. When Vashti refused to come, he would be more likely to act on impulse without considering the consequences of his action. We'll stop here because I'm a little bit excited, I guess. But again, that's another thing that we say, that we know. When we all get excited and panic, when we all get excited and panic, hurry, and make decisions, very vital decisions. Hurry. Don't stop and think. Again, also like when Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple and he did not let the Jews stop and cry and call out to God. Hurry, let's get them to Babylon. Hurry. No one stop and understand the situation, and understand what we need to do. But Mordecai the Jew had knowledge of everything that was happening in his reality. But he was also a prophet, and he knew the wisdom, and he understood it. And he gathered all of the Jews, and they fasted. They fasted for 3 days. We only need to fast for 1 day, March 13th, the 13th of Adar, the fast of Esther. And up until then, would be very good if everyone could just follow the laws, just keep Shabbat. Just keep Shabbat. The more we do not keep Shabbat, the more we extend this time in reality. And we don't fulfill our goal as a nation, which is to build the temple. We have a big home court advantage at this moment. They who are all in it together, okay, they brought us here for their own reasons. Let's just say the state, the anti-Torah law state, okay, even Bibi says it will never be a state that follows Torah laws, never. So, but we're here now. All the Jews are here now. If every Jew in the land of Israel would just keep Shabbat, would just pray to God, then, I mean, we'd have a lot of spiritual power. So we'll continue going on and on with the Book of Esther. Again, Mam Loaz is, I think, the only way that we can really understand the Torah at this time, because it's compiled all of the different levels of the Torah so that we should understand it, so that we can apply it to our reality and understand reality, and understand that in every generation they're plotting to kill us. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't succeed. What's the difference? What's the difference, Jews? So, looking forward to March 13th, trying to be more connected to God and His Torah. Until then.